This FedGov Today program is sponsored by Booz Allen. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, the top of the list for data success at federal agencies.
We need a federal workforce that has modern skills, that are able to be upskilled, retrained, and have the opportunity to benefit from this really rapid technology transformation that we're seeing.
Former federal CIO Clare Martorana on FedGov Today in just a moment. First, though, the Central Intelligence Agency is moving out of the planning phase toward deployment of artificial intelligence. It's making AI models available all over its organization. Linnea Jones, the Chief Information Officer at the CIA, will tell you how they work and how the agency got to where it is with AI models on FedGov Today TV this week. You can watch on demand anytime at fedgovtoday.com and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. Federal agency leaders list data as one of the most important components, and maybe the most important component, of their artificial intelligence strategies. Former federal CIO Clare Martorana made data a high priority on agency CIO to-do lists when she was in office. At DE25 recently, hosted by Booz Allen, I asked her what's holding agencies back from mastering data management.
One of the biggest challenges that I have seen across the federal ecosystem, so, the 24 CFO Act agencies, and then the 400 other agencies, right? We have a gigantic ecosystem. We're all on a different part of our journey. And data is the connective tissue of government. And it is absolutely critical. Some of your other panelists were talking about, the semantic layer, metadata. They're just, we have struggled in government. We have silos of excellence where people are doing extraordinary work, and the private sector learns from the government, which is kind of how I've grown up, is the government doing exceptional work and the American public benefiting from it. But I think where we have really struggled in the cloud first to cloud smart to AI disrupting everything, we don't have a relationship, I think, that is functional with our members of Congress to be able to build the sustainable long-term funding strategies that are needed to continue. The pace of change is so great, we have to actually work together as an ecosystem to make sure that we have the talent in place, that we have the contracting vehicles in place, and that we have the strategies in place to be able to meet today's challenges, but also, as Sunny mentioned in a previous segment, the future, quantum future, which is coming in a moment's time.
Probably more rapidly than people think right now.
Well, DeepSeek surprised us all a couple months ago, and very likely we are going to have another big surprise. I hope that is an American surprise. And I hope that we continue to fund the research that is needed for us to be able to capture the flag in the quantum world. But I think that we are just uneven across our different sectors of government. And we are seeing the risk of that, both in a cybersecurity posture, but also in an operating posture.
You mentioned the long-term funding strategy, and one of your most important jobs was as federal CIO was to be on the Technology Modernization Fund board. And I know in preparing for this that there were a large number of the TMF projects that were approved that got money that revolved around data management, data governance, and so on. No accident, I suppose, given what your view is on how important data is to the operations of the agencies, and then that disconnect that you just described in the long-term funding.
Yep. Computers are just bricks without data, right? So it doesn't, everything revolves around data strategy, risk management, governance. It is all about the data. And it's all also about the customer using the data. So, and many of your panelists have spoken about that, whether it's designing, I have a real bias for customer experience and digital experience. And making sure that in the development of our systems that we're thinking about the customer, and the customer can be a federal employee who is attempting to do something at the border, whether they are working at HHS. So making sure that we understand who the customer is, both the American public and our internal federal resources, and then also what problem we are trying to solve with the data. And I think that we just have such a unique opportunity at this moment in time, especially with AI, to learn from each other. So the other thing that I think is really important is the convening of these agencies and the sharing of knowledge, playbooks, right? GSA had the centers of excellence where you were really able to learn inside government in a way that you weren't embarrassed, right? If you are a member of a team, a mission partner, could be a CIO who has not had the sustained funding to be able to do some of these large projects, and then be able to learn from your partner who's farther ahead. And it's really the CIO Council, I think, is one of those incredible organizations where the camaraderie and the safe space that is created in that environment to share is really a critical part of how we operate in government.
You mentioned the centers of excellence and the kind of the repositories at agencies across government where organizations that do something well do that and either share that service or share that knowledge with everybody else. And the other organization that strikes me that the first Trump team created that you perpetuated and enhanced was the Quality Service Management Organizations, the QSMOs. It would have been tempting, I suppose, for someone in the White House to say, well, that was theirs, and so we'll do it different, or we'll start our own, or we'll call it something else, or whatever. And I note that both of those, you didn't. Right. You got out of the way and said, these are working well and we should let them keep working well.
It's absolutely critical. It is, I was fortunate. I joined in the Obama administration. I served in the first Trump administration and in the Biden administration. And technology is purple. Right? Technology is not red or blue. Technology is purple. We just have a mission to serve the American public and to be the best stewards of the taxpayer dollar. So rebranding an effort that worked in a previous administration for vanity's sake is idiotic. And I learned a lot from my predecessors as federal CIOs. Suzette Kent tweaked went to Cloud Smart from Cloud First, but that was a really elegant evolution of the strategy. It wasn't a rebranding for rebranding's sake. So I got to learn from really smart people that sat in the seat prior to me, and we just wanted to focus on the mission and the problems we were trying to solve.
Another thing that is striking, and we talked about it on this program, and again, it's something that comes up in conversation all across government on these issues, is changing culture and how that requires leadership. Yeah. What, in your view, is the role of the federal CIO in doing that? And what is the role for people like Sunny to be able to be change agents inside their organizations through the deployment of technology, but also alongside the deployment of that technology, explaining to folks, this is why we're doing this, and this is what the benefit will be to you, so that the folks that don't care about technology don't have to care about technology.
Right. I think a lot of it comes down to talent, right? It's a talent of we need a federal workforce that has modern skills, that are able to be upskilled, retrained, and have the opportunity to benefit from this really rapid technology transformation that we're seeing, or evolution that we're seeing across government. I think it is absolutely critical that we focus on having the talent in-house, partnering really effectively with our vendor partners. That is the really critical formula for the ecosystem. We need our vendor partners who are out there and learning from the private sector, bringing that knowledge in. We won't be able to recruit enough private sector talent to drop in. So we need those really critical vendor partnerships to have trusted relationships with CIOs like Sunny to be able to learn and advance what we know in an agency. And it's about trust and leadership, frankly. We also need a federal workforce that trusts our leaders, that we're making informed decisions, we're using data to make decisions, that we are not just knocking something down and, having to deal with the ramifications of having broken things. I think it's actually, I'm really optimistic because at a certain point, we are going to build back and we are going to start to utilize these modern tools and this data that we have to be able to do something like building digital twins of things, to be able to do testing. I'm really excited about where the ecosystem is going and the opportunity that we have to work with the private sector and partner effectively.
Former federal CIO Clare Martorana from DE25 recently, an event hosted by Booz Allen. You can find links to watch the DE25 TV show FedGov Today produced or the individual guest videos from the show on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The next FedGov Today podcast is coming on Thursday. You can listen to that show and every FedGov Today podcast anytime you want on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your shows, and always on demand at fedgovtoday.com. I'm Francis Rose. Thanks very much for listening.